Boa tarde a todos. Sejam bem-vindos à cerimónia comemorativa do 28º aniversário da Escola de Arquitetura, Arte e Design da Universidade do Minho. Vamos iniciar esta cerimónia com um momento muito especial de conversa com Ai Weiwei, um dos artistas mais influentes da atualidade, não só pela sua poderosa expressão artística, mas também pelo seu firme compromisso com os direitos humanos e a liberdade de expressão. A conversa será moderada pela professora Susana Gaudêncio, artista visual e vice-presidente da Escola de Arquitetura, Arte e Design, que de imediato irá proceder à apresentação de Ai Weiwei.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome what it promises to be an inspiring afternoon. Welcome, Ai Weiwei. It's a pleasure to have you. I'm going to do a smallish introduction. Ai Weiwei defies categorization. As an artist, architect, filmmaker, and activist, his works transcends traditional boundaries, creating a powerful dialogue between art and society. Born in China and currently living in Europe, Ai Weiwei is deeply engaged with issues of freedom of expression, human rights, and the refugee crisis, subjects that resonate globally and particularly within today's social-political landscape. One could say that his work, more than bearing witness to certain unfair situation, tries to get justice. Born in Beijing in 1957 and the son of an outspoken Chinese poet and regime critic Hai Qing, he grew up in a labor camp in the remote Xinjiang province during his father's 20 years exile. His practice can be described as a blend of conceptual rigor and material mastery grounded in his unique personal experiences. Ai Weiwei also exemplifies how art and architecture can become platforms for activism. His art is not confined to the gallery. It expands into the public sphere, inciting us to think about how creative expression can address the most urgent crisis of our time. Though his work deals with heavy political themes, Ai Weiwei incorporates a sense of play and humor into his practice. We can see that in his series Study of Perspective, for instance, where he gives the finger to iconic global landmarks. And this can be seen as both a critique of authority, but also a playful subversion of power structures. This irreverence can be joyful, reminding us that humor can exist even within serious critique. This sense of joy in creation, even amidst difficult circumstances, is a message that resonates with many of us, hopefully and particularly younger generations of artists and activists. It reminds us that the act of creation is itself a form of liberation and empowerment. In this public conversation, we hope to explore Ai Weiwei's ongoing commitment to social justice, to art, and discuss how his creative practices offer a critical lens on global challenges. How can art and architecture continue to be powerful agents for change? How do we, as artists, designers, thinkers, position ourselves in the complex web of politics, culture, and activism? These are questions Ai Weiwei's work continues to ask, and we look forward to hearing his insights. Please join me in welcoming Ai Weiwei, a citizen of the world, a citizen of nowhere. This is a quotation. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, hello.
Hello, hi.
I have a series of questions that you can decide not to answer. So you're free to be the bad student, as you were telling me. You were telling me that you like to be the bad student, so you cannot answer my questions if you wish.
Thank you.
So, I was wondering, in your work, you address difficult issues like human rights abuses and government censorship. And despite these challenges, where do you find hope in the power of art and architecture in order to inspire change? Where do you find hope in this work? Can you share examples where you've witnessed a positive impact on a shift of awareness through your art?
Okay. Well, they call me artist. You know. Now I see an image there, which is a work I did on 2014 in Alcatraz, which is a U.S. federal jail. So I did this work because they asked me to do a work there. And so when they gave me opportunity, very often all my shows are being asked by different institutions. And I always think this is probably my first or my last exhibition. Mm-hmm. So I have to ask myself, what is absolutely necessary to speak out for? Very often, many political questions or the questions to our world can be in the front. Of course, I can do pure so-called aesthetic or artworks, but there's always this jump out before that, which such as human rights, freedom of speech, and humanity. But it's not that easy. If we go back to the first slides, I just saw the first slides is different.
Can we go back to the first slide, please?
Okay. I see there's an image of a mandala. Mm-hmm. And we use the image because Amnesty International provided me the 176 political prisoners. So I decided to use Lego to create their image. But this show, I never been there because I was in self-detention. So I have to find a way to let somebody else to do the work. So I did a computer design to give to my friends in California, the gallery, and Hans Gallery. So they structured it. Even work like this, then we received a letter from a photographer. I think it's from England. They said this photo taken by him, and he asked us for quite an amount of money.
Wow.
What I'm going to do, I thought we are doing pretty artistic design. It's nothing to do with the photo anymore. That's the image, but still, his lawyer contact us and to say we have to pay. Otherwise it will be big, even bigger problem. So even by doing works, you're always facing political situation. The system is always there. Mm-hmm. And nobody can escape from that. That's what I'm saying. Even to make a smallest effort, still that can have a very big consequence.
Yeah, this work is, I think it's really interesting because during the show you had a lot of visitors that were families from some of these resistant voices that were detained. So it's really, it was a very emotional work as well because it did have repercussions. And I think in some of the reportage we also see some of the detainees being represented in this work. So it kind of also had an effect on their own lives being represented, their voices being represented through this imagery. Celebrating their courage of being against the system somehow. Continuing. So now, about the subject of community and collaboration, you have collaborated with various communities across the world in your projects. And some of these collaborations have led to moments of hope or unexpected positive outcomes. I'm remembering the sunflower seeds installation where you worked with, it's a monumental installation where you worked with 1,600 Chinese artisans to make 100 million porcelain sunflower seeds, handcrafted. This kind of symbolizes also the power of the collective. And I was wondering if you could share with us what was this process of working with this community.
Well, first, it's a miracle. You know, Chinese have a long traditions of porcelain making. They can, they can manage to do the best porcelains in the history and now today also. I'm happy I did this in China. If I do in Portugal, it will take another 500 years to accomplish. It's true. Anything you do in Portugal, it takes triple more time to finish, and also not the quality, not even mention the quality. So I'm fortunate, I work in China, I'm a Chinese, and I work with Chinese craftsmen, and they're willing to work. Everybody in China are willing to work. They work every day. They don't, they can rest, but they don't want to because they want to make some money to save for their family, their children. They can send their children to Europe or United States to get into best universities. So that's the situation. And I always have a great experience working with them. Mm-hmm. Actually, many works I do because I think that would contribute to them. So,
financially also.
Of course, not only financially, they need, and people need to be proud. Mm-hmm. People need to say they're part of something. People cannot just being laid out, nothing to do, take vacation all the time. So there's no integrity in there. Mm-hmm. So people like to feel there's a community, they achieve something even beyond they can understand.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I remember seeing some reportage on the production of this piece, and some artisans were being interviewed, and they did seem very, very proud of being part of it, and because they are part of a small part in the big engine.
It's, one seed is so small. I try to create the smallest objects for Tate Modern, because every artist invited, they make it as big as possible. But I said maybe I'll make the smallest work, sunflower seeds, but a lot of them. That's the idea.
The experience becomes big, not the object, but the experience.
Yes, when you look at those images, first, if I look at it, because before we show it, I never know it's going to look like this. Mm-hmm. I just know it's 100 million of them. But when you look at it, you don't believe it yourself. You think this is just too many. It's like an ocean. Then you realize that only 1/10 of a Chinese population, or not even 1/10, 1/15.
Wow.
Just think about it. Then you think about if that many population need to have a job, to have food to eat, to have education, is not an easy task. China is experiencing something dramatically important. To have 1.4 billion people have food and pretty prosper in today's measurement.
Yeah, but it is beautiful to imagine that collective work and that community building towards a very poetic experience, that it's very nice.
Yeah.
So, next question. So now something that also truly reflects your experience. Your father, Hai Qing, was a well-known poet who faced prosecution by the Chinese state. And of course, his experiences and artistic legacy are definitely, for sure, important to you. Do they inspire your own activism and the themes you explore in your work? Since you grew up in exile with your family during China anti-rightist campaign, I'm sure this had an impact on you. So I was wondering if you could share with us how do those experiences of displacement and repression continue to influence your work today? And I've picked this work that it's not in the right position, so we need to. It's a fairy tale, which I think it's a really interesting project of yours that you envisioned for Documenta, for the 12th Documenta in 2007. And this involved in bringing 1,001 Chinese citizens to Kassel, to the Documenta, to experience a fairy tale, in a way also displacing them in order for them to be part of a different context, of a foreign land. And then you installed these chairs in the exhibition hall. I was wondering if you could talk to us a little bit about your experience of displacement, of exile, and also how this work was like a kind of a sublimation of it somehow.
Okay. At the beginning of the question, you talked about my father. My father is a poet, and he studied in Paris in 1930s. And he was study art. But at 21 years old, when he goes back to China, he was being put in jail because he joined this kind of leftist culture movement. So he was sentenced. And then later he joined the revolution. And then later they established the new nation, 1949. It's 1949, yes. And 8 years later, I was born, 1957. The year I was born, he was criticized as a rightist. So there's an anti-rightist campaign, so he was punished and exiled for 20 years. I grew up with him in very remote province. That's my short history about me and my father, because I think maybe it's necessary to talk about that. Then talk about Documenta, that's 207.
207.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the first time my work has been presented in Germany in an international art platform. So when the curator asked me to present a work, that time I think I'm not going to present a painting or a sculpture. I'm going to do something different. And after being 12 years in the United States, I already went back to China for another 10 years. So I realized China is not open yet. And So maybe I bring 1,000 ordinary Chinese to see this contemporary art show in Germany. And to be honest, if I go to those kind of art shows, I would never even understand what they're doing. You know, I would be totally confused. I said maybe that's why I don't go to those kind of art shows. And so I thought maybe as some kind of punishment, I would bring 1,000 Chinese to look at the show to see what is going on. So I managed to succeed to make this happen. That's the document 207. And my work mostly functions like a travel agent. Mm-hmm. I have to find them to get a passport, visa, and insurance, book tickets, and also have to cook for them. I'm a very good cook, by the way. I can cook for 1,000 people. This is not enough for for dinner. So every day I have to cook with them because the Chinese, if they leave their nation, if like in 3 days they don't eat Chinese, I think it will be a riot, and they will go home immediately. They appreciate to eat other type of food, but they have to eat the Chinese. So that's the experience.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting also to think about how these 1,001 Chinese tourists came into the city and then changed the dialogue, culturally speaking. Suddenly, Kassel, a very German city, if one can say that, and suddenly there's 1,001 Chinese, even though they came 200 by 200 during the show, right?
You know so well.
Yes, I know.
Because
I'm a good student.
we have to book a full airplane
Yeah.
to do that, because no airplane can take 1,000.
Yeah,
And for that town, it's a very small town, Kassel, and they never see maybe 3 Chinese at the same time.
Yeah, definitely.
Suddenly they see so many Chinese, and it's almost like they see some panda come out of a zoo or something, Yeah. Everybody is talking about Chinese. Nowadays, Chinese everywhere, but not in this audience. It's very strange.
No, it's true. Okay, so continuing, also in the subject of this idea of collective action in order to unveil a truth or to memorialize something. Maybe we can have the next slide. I was wondering and thinking about this piece, remembering that you show that also in Germany, but in Munich, in München, a show called So Sorry at Haus der Kunst in Munich. And this work started by an investigation you did on a governmental responsibility. It's back in 2008. There was an earthquake that hit the Chinese province of Sichuan, and there were almost 90,000 casualties, and thousands of them were students and children, due especially to the poor infrastructure. So you did kind of an archaeological work of trying to find the names of these children, and that were, many of them were not accounted for. So this is one example where art is a communal process, because you've worked with other people trying to find the names. Could you tell us a little bit about this project of remembering?
2008, China experienced a big earthquake in Sichuan. It's Yeah, May 12th, the earthquake made about 80,000 people disappeared. The life just. But during this later aftermath, and the government still not openly talk about what is the reality. Why so many life lost their life? So many people. When farmer lost their life, people think, okay, they build their own house. You know, the house never really passing the so-called civil code.
The codes.
So seems they deserve it. 80,000 of them. But we realize there's about 5,000 students lost their life because school building collapsed. And school building are built by government and are not supposed to collapse during this earthquake. Even the residential building next to school are still standing. So we realize there must be a big corruption, government, political corruption there. So we keep asking how many students was crashed. And the government, of course, never answer us. So I got a little bit angry. I had a blog. I said, maybe I will do the investigation myself. So I organized the online citizen investigation group, about 40 people, all volunteers, you know, people I know, my students or my art colleagues. So we organized teams to go to very far away, Sichuan, which is thousands miles away from Beijing, to go to all those very remote areas, knock on door and talk to the relatives and family to ask the names of the students. After a year, not a year, but months of investigation, finally we found over 5,219 students' name, birthday, which school they were in when school collapsed. And I would post the new findings on my blog, and I'll put the image of a candle. So that act, very simple act, generates the whole nation's attention because everybody feel, how could this guy do this, you know? And finally, government have to shut down my blog. Mm-hmm. And of course, it's getting me into a lot of conflicts with police, with authority, and they locked up many of our investigators, volunteers, beat them, destroy their funding, the research materials. And by 2009, I was planned to have a show in Munich, Germany. So that time I already had an injury on my brain, but I don't know it because they beat me during the investigation 1 month earlier. So I traveled to Germany. I realized my head pain is unbearable. So went to hospital. I did an operation. I have the brain hemorrhage, mm-hmm. and they released all the blood and the pressure, and I was survived. I would die like 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. So it saved me a lot of trouble to talk to you guys. And I would be peacefully somewhere. So during the show, this institution is built by the famous German Adolf Hitler for his art. So when I do a show in this kind of institution, I think I would change the facade. So I made 9,000 Chinese backpacks in different colors to structure one sentence. This sentence is one young girl, she is 7 years old. Her mom write a letter to me, said, I don't want the government to pay us anything, we just want she can be remembered. She has been in this world happily for 7 years. So I put this sentence right in front of the facade. And I think it's okay, it's pretty artistic, but
But you made that mother's wish come true, in a sense.
I first made my wish come true.
Yeah.
I want those young kids to be remembered. I would do anything for them. And of course, I think her mother should be happy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. It is a potent way to address tragedy, looking for the truth and then try to translate it through a poetic instance somehow. It doesn't pay off the death, but it helps. So, another question. Because you've been, your life, your personal experiences has someone that critiques your government. You've been away, displaced many times. And I think the process of doing this work, so these images that we're seeing now, they come from this documentary you made in 2020 called Coronation, and it addresses the COVID-19 pandemic, and I think it was really interesting how you worked since you were not able to be in China. But you did try to, through art, to understand what happened, to find the process also of how you could get rid of, or the Chinese government could stop the spread. So you used footage filmed by citizens. You kind of appropriated their work to do this documentary that presented a part of the truth about it. Could you tell us a little bit about that process of working outside this context, trying to find the truth?
Well, I don't know. I'm always interested in how to reveal the truth. And of course, I'm very fortunate. I'm facing a government always trying to cover up the truth. So the game between me and the government is always there. As artists, truth is more important than beauty. So I always associate my work in searching for truth and what is behind the reality. So when the pandemic started, the city Wuhan was locking down. And of course, when China locked down a city, it's very serious. You can never really almost get any kind of movement in the city. But I do have associates, they also in the city. they are in this kind of, they also cause this kind of disease, COVID. So they were also locked into different kind of hospital and the situation. So I just connect with them. I said, please just record whatever in front of you. For you, it's absolutely frightening, but we have to leave some kind of historical record. So just for very simple intention, I managed to get a few group of people start making images. I structured a film called Coronation, COVID and a nation, combined coronation. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's the film. It's very hard to talk about film, but I really encourage you, if it's possible, you can watch the film.
Yeah.
And you can see how this kind of disease, this public condition, being, one of the biggest nations trying to cope with the situation, and how people responded, and it's just an ordinary story in very extraordinary situation.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there was not many or much information about the context about Wuhan, but I think this piece, this activist piece, it is a very important legacy of something that can be said about that time, because there was no information. The information was being blocked. And also it's interesting because it also reveals the resilience of people trying to overcome it. Mm-hmm. So it is also very poetic for that, because you kind of see a team of people trying to register, to archive it, and to bring it to light under this dramatic situation. Okay, so we're continuing on the theme of documentary. You see, so there's a key theme in your work, I think, which is the individual standing up against oppressive systems. So in today's world, where people often feel powerless in the fate of larger structures, what advice would you give to those who seek to make their voices heard through art, design, or activism? Do you have, besides your art, a way to show us an advice? Also thinking about this example of The Human Flow, which is a documentary where you traveled across 23 countries to document the global refugee crisis. So you have your way of giving voice to unseen people and unseen problems. Could you give us an advice on how to address?
It's very hard for me to look at those images. I don't even know you're going to present those, because those kids, maybe none of them are still alive. Mm-hmm. That was in Gaza. And I guess you must heard about Gaza.
Yes, of course.
And I went to there, I just want to know what's going on. And of course, Israeli government said, no, you can never go. I said to them, you need the Israeli military to let you go. You have to go through there. So I said, if you don't let me go, I will stay in Israel till one day you let me go. I will do it. And somehow they were informed this guy is really going to do it, and that will maybe maybe should just let him go. So that night, they decided that you can go tomorrow. So I went to Gaza. Gaza is the biggest jail on the earth, and millions of people living in very unbelievable poor conditions. So you can see the children, they're just like children anywhere. It's like we see in Spain or in Portugal, in anywhere. In China, would be like this. But as we know, that was 2016. I never can imagine the situation can be worse than like today. Today, there's no children anymore. Mm-hmm. So, you want my advice to students? I just say students are so privileged today, still learning, how to dealing with, our comfortable life, how to make 5 households in 250 square meters, to try to manage to get the best condition out of that. But it's very good to learn those skills and to learn how to analyze and how to, to understand the human behaving. But that's never enough. School teach you, it's good for you to become a skillful person, but never good for you to become a real human being. Mm-hmm. So my advice is school is too long, 4 years, maybe you have a post-production, another 2 or 3. I would say maybe altogether you need 2 years study and another 2 years working in the fields. Mm-hmm. Just take a map, point at any point. You don't even have to know. You just go to that point, trying to survive there, to find the problem, to solve the problem. I think that will give you much better education. So please do not ask any of my advice about school.
Thank you for your advice.
And nobody should listen to me anyway. So
no, we should. I was thinking that because of your loud position about some political situation like Gaza, you had a show cancelled at a gallery because of a remark you did on Israel. So, I mean, there's also, things that happen because of your strong voice against it. So yeah, it's also a matter of being courageous and standing up for what you believe.
I think if we always say, okay, in the West, you have a freedom of speech, you're living in a democratic society. I think that's the biggest lie. If you talk about something really relevant, you'll be punished. Good example is why I talk about the Israel-US relations. 4 of my shows being either cancelled or delayed, and the museum show being delayed. So I don't know why they're so powerful. I'm an artist. I don't have to have an art show even. So they still can manage to punish me. But today, look what happened in Middle East. I said very early. Now, whatever I said being proved by reality. I'm just a little bit ahead of time. So they are really afraid anybody who is ahead of time. And yeah.
Thank you. So now, talking about contribution to design, since we are in an engineering architecture school as well. Okay. So Bird's Nest Stadium, or the poetic name, was the main ex-libris of the 2008 Beijing Olympics. And it was created along with Swiss architects Herzog and de Meuron. Could you talk to us a little bit about this process that, in a way, I know you've refused to attend its inauguration at the time. Could you talk to us a little bit about the process and also your position afterwards?
Okay. It seems a lot of big topics.
Sorry.
I already
you
forget
say no.
all of them. I already forget. I think you can easily forget everything if you don't have a good sleep. It seems never happened to me. Now I realize, yes, I am very much like a criminal in front of all evidence. I say, yes, I did this. Yeah, but why we need to remember it anyhow? And I guess I have already a long life, maybe too long,
Not too long.
So
no, I think you still have a lot of things to.
This is by a year 2000, I started working with architecture. I work with architecture is not because I love architecture. It's only because I was living with my mom, come back from the United States, and in Beijing, a little courtyard house. And every day, I don't know what to do. I just play cards with my brother, and I go to antique market to buy some antiques. For me, it's a study. And my mom feel very disappointed. This boy have been United States for 12 years, never graduate, doesn't even know how to drive a car.
Bad student.
And that time I was also not married. So, my mom one day said that you should move out of my house because I think it seems I have any possibility to make any kind of improvement. To be honest, I don't really know what to do in China. After 12 years in New York, I feel I'm outsider again. China for me is another foreign nation. Yes, my parents there, but I don't psychologically involved with whatever is going on in China. So when I have to move out from my parents' house, I have to find out where should I go. So I found a village. In this village, you still can build a house without license, without any kind of government approval. Because in China, when they build big cities, they need a lot of laborers. And no laborers would have a real living condition. You just have to build those kind of temporary houses. So around the city, there's huge amount of temporary houses. So I took the opportunity, bought a piece of land, rent a piece of land. I said, I'm going to build something. Then the head of village said, yes, you can. We are not going to stop you. As long as you give a name called some kind of architecture research center or something. I said, okay. So I built my studio. I don't think we have image here. Anyhow, I built my studio. And then that studio are so different from any other building in China. So I become a new spokesperson for new lifestyle.
Wow.
They realize this guy can offer very different opinions on what modernism is, rather than build all those Renaissance type of building. Because everybody wants to be rich. They think Europe is, if they travel to Europe, they try to copy those buildings. So that become very well known as architects. For me, it's good. I can easily, for me, it's not difficult because from very young, I know how to build. I grew up in very bad condition, countryside. We have to make everything. So I'm a very handy person. I can easily see how to make something. And I become architect. I made about 60 projects. And by that time, Herzog Dimrang, the Swiss architect firm, was invited to big projects in China because China want to show the world they are very open. Mm-hmm. And but they never been China, so they have to find someone who understand the China, and all understand the West.
A mediator.
Yeah, because I was doing contemporary art and practice in China, so I said okay. Through a friend of, Swiss ambassador, Uli Sig. So we worked tightly together to create this concept of stadium. Then we won the competition. Yeah, just make the story short. It's just so simple.
Mm-hmm. I just wanted to go back a little bit to your company, to your design company, because I read in your memoir that you called it fake design, and also making a pun with, sorry my expression, fuck design. So do you want to talk a little bit about that title?
To design architecture, you need to have a company. And so I hate to have a company, but I have to register. So we give them a name. In Chinese, I give them name, which is pretty nasty. It's fa ke, that means fuck. But the Chinese, they don't speak English, so they think fa ke could be good name because fa means prosper in Chinese. Ke means a license to be, prosper. They said this is a good name. So we have those submit 3 names I remember. I still feel lucky they selected the Fa Ke rather than another name is Dick. And the third name is Pussy.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel so grateful they chose Fa Ke. Mm-hmm. But Fa Ke in spelling in Chinese is a fake.
Fake. Mm-hmm.
So all the Westerners, they see my company, they say, okay, fake. Is real your name, company? I say, yes. But they said, you are the only company in China provide real designs, but call yourself fake. I said, well, it's just like that.
That's a good story.
Yeah. Everything have long story, so.
Yes. So talking about good and funny stories, I would like to address two pieces that talk about humor as subversion, which is also a big part of your strategy.
I thought we just talked about the humor and...
Yes, I mean, I'm continuing on the theme of
enough.
Humor.
Okay.
So, because I think you use humor to challenge authority, and it is, a strategy that many artists use. We're going to see this little video.
That's Taj Mahal. That's long before Trump become president.
You're a visionary.
Yeah. That's the 1980s.
Wow. So, I'll go on. So you do see humor or and playfulness play in your artwork. Do you think it helps engaging the audience? Do you think using humor helps helping?
I took those images very casually because I am a little bit against tourism but I have to go to many locations. When they take this kind of image, I just did this to show my attitude. And but I think this world, you cannot take it too seriously. If we look at what happens today, I think humor is the only way to release many or angers or frustration. And it's just how we should live with different type of perspective. We need to always have a second opinion. And
but this action, it kind of became like a gimmick in a way. I mean, because before we were just. Do you still continue to do this gesture? Do you have like building your archive?
No, at the beginning, I don't even think that's artwork.
Yeah.
It just later, it become a little bit iconic. This guy doing this kind of silly gestures all the time. And I put together as artwork. So.
Mm-hmm. So we're continuing, and we're almost we're close to the end of my questions. Almost. I still have two. So I would like to come back also into the refugee crisis and this work, law of the journey, that was also part of a big show that addressed this theme. So I see your message as one of hope, urging the global community to act with compassion and reminding us of our collective responsibility to create a more just and humane future. There's a really strong message with this huge piece. I mean, the scale of it, and also the number of people in this tragedy. How can you explain a little bit of this law of journey? It's a massive inflatable boat installation.
By 2015, I finally been given my passport. So after they not allowed me to travel for 4 or 5 years, so I went to Germany. That time was the peak of the Syrian refugee rush. So I always have some kind of intuition. I said that to understand the situation, I have to go to where they really come from. So I tried to go to Syria, which at that time was not possible. Mm-hmm. Then I went to Lesbos with my son and my partner. We saw the boat coming in day and night, with children and elderly people, and people definitely doesn't belong to Europe, but they have to come because the war. They are being pulled out from their home, and so I said, okay, I have to go to another side, that which was Turkey. Then we go to Lebanon, we go to Israel, and many other places, Mexico, just to see the refugee camps and to talk to them. I interviewed over hundreds in refugees. I become probably one of the top refugee worker or researcher. So I also published a book on these interviews.
And this was made at the same time as the documentary?
I made 3 documentaries about refugee, human flow, Rohingyas in Bangladesh, and the rest. But it doesn't matter how much, since I do, how many artworks I do, it cannot even match the smallest pen with one little boy or little girl. What they have experienced. What I did is nothing. It's just too much. It's beyond the language. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's my experience.
Yeah, and you feel that your documentaries are in another kind of. It's a different kind of language than this artwork. The subject is the same. It's bringing light over.
Well, I think as artists, the most important is first to understand what you're facing. You're living the time you're living in, mm-hmm. and you understand the reality. But that's never enough, because you have to find a language to express yourself. So for refugee situation, I think I tried many languages, documentary film, and of course installations, objects, or I did over 100 interviews. And I also made a few books about the same topic. Mm-hmm. So there's never limit. You just have to find the right language, and they're trying to masterize it, to do it well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm approaching the last question now, and it's about losing and finding freedom, ad eternum. So it's kind of losing and finding it. And I wanted to go back to April of 2011. You were arrested at the Beijing airport while waiting for a flight to Hong Kong. And while your detention is certainly linked to your criticism of the Chinese government, the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs declared that you were under investigation for alleged economic crimes. Also, your participation in the Jasmine rallies at the time, a series of peaceful pro-democracy protests which took place all over China in February that year, no doubt that also contributed to your arrest. Months before, your studio in Shanghai was demolished because it contravened planning regulations, so they said. And when your passport was returned in 2015, you left the country. And since then, you have lived in Germany, UK, and Portugal. And you recently built a studio house in Monte da Boa Vista, in Montemoro Novo, Alentejo. And this was the subject of a reportage in the Portuguese newspaper Público last week. And in this interview, you called it the empty house, or a house for itself, which I thought it was really beautiful. So the client is it's the house. And I think this also references to a specific past experience of dwelling for you, of when you were living with your family in exile. You also described that in your memoir. So could you tell us a little bit more about this new reality in Portugal and how it's coming about?
Well, I make it short again. I think 2 or 3 years ago, I was invited to have a show in Lisbon. I'd never been in Portugal before. And I come to Lisbon, and I realized I like the weather and the light, So I told the agent, I said, maybe I find a house here so I can get this resident visa, because I'm still Chinese passport holder. I never applied for another passport, so it's very difficult for me to travel. And so we went to Alentejo. I don't know where's Alentejo, but almost like first house we visited, I said, okay, we'll buy this house. And I think the house has been marketed for 2 years, but the lady are very nice, and we made the deal, and I moved in. It's a large piece of land. In China, nobody owns a land. Land all belong to the country. So I thought maybe I can rebuild my studio being destroyed in Shanghai, because that studio we built, but we never had a one day lived in. Even after we furnished it, it just turned down in one morning without any warning or something. So to do that, I have to work with the local architects, construction company, and you know, all the people come from here. And after 2 years, the building is done. It's very hard to describe a building unless you visit it. It's the same shape but a very different method of building, because the whole construction is use like Chinese furniture making. It's like a temple without nails, all puzzled together. So yeah, now it's look like this. I call it an empty house because this house really would serve no purpose. I built it just for building it. I don't have to use it in any way. Second reason I didn't tell the newspaper is the house maybe can never be finished.
How come?
Because it just cannot be finished. You don't have enough people in Portugal to working on it. It delays and delays. So I already learned the patient here. I said, it's okay. I just let it be, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a house for itself, for its own construction. It's the process.
Yeah, it's okay to have an unfinished house, you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, so just a final question. How I see that your experience in Portugal has been a lot about learning how to wait and have patience with construction workers mainly. But do you want to give us an example of something that you enjoy?
I enjoyed
here?
so much this lunch, and
Oh, thank you.
you know, every day, every time any restaurant I get into Portugal, even just, you know, ordinary restaurant, they were so nice. I would say, like, give me a soup. They will give me a soup. You know, I like the cooking here. It's really cooking, and that's why I feel I'm very fortunate to leave all those big cities, New York or Beijing or Berlin, and come to Portugal. I think it's a very nice choice.
Yeah, you were telling us that you thought we were fortunate for living here. That's one of the things you said.
I think you're fortunate not to be in such a hurry, and I think I don't know. You know, what's what I feel. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I'm finishing with something your father told you that you only understood later, which is being able to live the best way possible, which I think it's a good catchphrase maybe to finish. So on behalf of all of us here today, thank you so much, Ai Weiwei, for sharing your thoughts with us and your stories. Thank you all for being here. And I also, before I finish, I want to encourage you to visit Ai Weiwei's exhibition Don Quixote that just opened at MUSAC, the Museu de Arte Contemporâneo de Castilha e León, and that it will be on view until May, so very close to us. Thank you so much once again. Let's give a big round of applause.
Thank you.
Muito obrigado por esta conversa. De seguida, iremos passar em revista as atividades da escola no último ano. Muito obrigado. Pedíamos a todos que regressassem aos seus lugares e vamos agora proceder à entrega do Prémio Almedina, que distingue a estudante Ângela de Jesus Gomes, da Licenciatura em Artes Visuais. Irá entregar este prémio a Presidente do Conselho Pedagógico, Professora Susana Gaudêncio. Uma salva de palmas para a estudante, por favor. Vai agora usar da palavra o Presidente da Escola de Arquitetura, Arte e Design, professor Paulo Cruz.
Bem, captar a vossa atenção depois do momento que acabamos de testemunhar não vai ser fácil. Portanto, acredito que nem fazendo o pino ou recorrendo a outros gestos de perspectiva consiga captar a vossa atenção, mas mesmo assim vou tentar. E tomando o modo protocolar, excelentíssimo Sr. Vice-Reitor, professor Eugénio Campos Ferreira, caros membros da equipa reitoral aqui presentes, estimados presidentes e vice-presidentes de unidades orgânicas de ensino e de investigação, senhora administradora dos Serviços de Ação Social, engenheira Alexandra Seixas, caros dirigentes da Universidade do Minho e dos Serviços de Ação Social, ilustres membros do Conselho de Escola e do Conselho Científico da Escola de Arquitetura, Arte e Design, excelentíssimo Sr. Deputado Ricardo Araújo, em representação de Sua Excelência do Grupo Parlamentar do PSD, Dr. Hugo Soares, excelentíssimo Sr. Vereador da Câmara Municipal de Braga, Dr. João Rodrigues, em representação do Presidente Ricardo Rio, excelentíssima Senhora Vereadora da Câmara Municipal de Guimarães, Arquiteta Ana Cotter, em representação do Presidente Domingos Bragança, estimados vereadores da Câmara Municipal de Braga e de Guimarães, caro Vice-Presidente do Conselho Diretivo Regional Norte da Ordem dos Arquitetos, Arquiteto Bruno Marques, estimados parceiros estratégicos em projetos de ensino, de investigação, de inovação e de criação artística e cultural, caro Presidente do Núcleo de Alunos de Arquitetura, Design e Artes, Bernardo Costa, caros colegas da equipa de presidência, caros docentes e investigadores, estimado pessoal técnico administrativo e de gestão, caríssimos estudantes e alumni da escola, distintos convidados, caros amigos, minhas senhoras e meus senhores. Boa tarde e sejam muito bem-vindos à sessão de comemoração do 28º aniversário da Escola de Arquitetura, Arte e Design. Sinto-me profundamente grato por partilhar este momento com todos vós e com os que assistem a essa sessão por streaming. É com um enorme prazer que exprimo o meu sincero e reconhecido agradecimento institucional e pessoal pela vossa presença nesta cerimónia, que queremos interpretar como a manifestação do vosso apreço e a consideração por esta escola. Neste sentimento de gratidão, dirijo-me em primeiro lugar ao Sr. Vice-Reitor e aos membros da equipa reitoral aqui presentes, agradecendo penhoradamente todo o vosso apoio. Agradeço a todas e a todos os presidentes e vice-presidentes das unidades orgânicas da Universidade do Minho aqui presentes, manifestando o meu reconhecimento pela vossa permanente cumplicidade e cooperação. Saúdo todas e todos os estudantes, docentes, investigadores e pessoal técnico-administrativo e de gestão, destacando e agradecendo a paixão e entusiasmo com que vivem a escola. Saúdo e agradeço a presença dos nossos alumni e de todos os parceiros estratégicos em projetos de ensino, de investigação e de inovação e de criação artística e cultural, e é com profunda satisfação pela qualidade da conversa com Ai Weiwei que acabamos de testemunhar, que agradeço o patrocínio da Portilam, que tornou possível a sua viagem e estadia. Muito obrigado. Minhas senhoras e meus senhores, na celebração do aniversário de uma escola é habitual que se proceda a um breve balanço das principais atividades e dos momentos marcantes no último ano. Este discurso não será exceção a essa regra, até porque este foi um bom ano para a escola, pelas razões que passo a apontar. por se ter constituído o núcleo de alunos de arquitetura, design e artes, pelos excelentes resultados do Concurso Nacional de Acesso ao Ensino Superior, nos 3 projetos de ensino da escola, o mestrado integrado em arquitetura e as licenciaturas de artes visuais e de design de produto. Pela entrada em funcionamento de um novo mestrado em ensino de artes visuais no 3º ciclo do ensino básico e no ensino secundário, em parceria com o Instituto de Educação, por termos assumido a coordenação da 2ª edição do curso de formação especializada em tecnologia de fachadas e envolventes de edifícios, em parceria com a Escola de Engenharia e a empresa Bysteel, no âmbito do programa educacional da Aliança de Pós-Graduação da Universidade do Minho, apoiada pelo PRR. Por, com o mesmo enquadramento, termos coordenado a 1ª edição do curso de formação especializada em fabricação robótica, em design, arquitetura e construção, e iniciado a 2ª edição em parceria com as empresas Casais, ESI e Moveco. Por, no âmbito da candidatura da Universidade do Minho à FC Tenor, termos visto aprovada a única cátedra não académica, a Cátedra Casais de Construção na Era Digital. Pela sempre efetiva e profícua colaboração com o município de Guimarães, o CIASG, Centro Internacional de Arte José de Guimarães, o CIA, Centro para os Assuntos da Arte e Arquitetura e o Laboratório da Paisagem. Por termos colaborado na organização do 1º Congresso Internacional em Design e Indústria e por termos atraído a Guimarães a 2ª edição em 2026. Por termos iniciado os trabalhos da Comissão Promotora do Programa Doutoral em Design e Engenharia de Produto, nomeada pelo recente despacho conjunto dos reitores da Universidade de Aveiro e da Universidade do Minho. Por termos concluído os processos de contratação de 2 técnicos superiores para apoio às atividades das oficinas e laboratórios na área de construção e tecnologia e das artes visuais. Por se terem concluído 2 importantes projetos desenvolvidos pelo Centro de Estudos, a reabilitação do Centro Cívico da Vila das Taipas e o de instalação da Unidade de Arqueologia no recém-inaugurado Convento de São Francisco de Real. Pela participação ativa da escola no programa de comemorações no centenário do nascimento do arquiteto Fernando Távora, iniciativa Mais do que Casas, que reuniu as escolas de arquitetura paisagista e de belas artes em torno de uma reflexão crítica e propositiva sobre os desafios contemporâneos da habitação e do espaço público na construção de uma sociedade intercultural e de promoção da cidadania global. Pela intensa atividade cultural e de extensão da escola, neste período que vimos há pouco recordada, e que se expressa pelos seguintes indicadores: 10 aulas abertas, 15 workshops e oficinas, 14 exposições, 13 encontros e conferências e a presença em 9 feiras de divulgação da oferta formativa. Todos estes marcos constituem inequívoca demonstração da maturidade, do prestígio e da dinâmica da escola e dos seus membros, aproveitando a ocasião para agradecer o contributo dos vice-presidentes cessantes Bruno Figueiredo, Carla Cruz e Ivo Oliveira. Excelente exemplo dessa dinâmica é o facto do NADA, o Núcleo dos Alunos de Arquitetura, Design e Artes, ter associado às celebrações deste 28º aniversário da escola a organização do EAAD Fest, que desde hoje e até quinta-feira contará com uma programação diversa, incluindo palestras, mesas redondas, atividades culturais e momentos de convívio que, estou certo, proporcionarão uma oportunidade de partilha. Minhas senhoras e meus senhores, por acreditar que o futuro deve ter memória do passado, no programa de ação da presidência da escola no triênio 2022-2024, assumi o compromisso de promover uma publicação que revisitasse os seus primeiros 25 anos e relembrasse o papel e o contributo dos que participaram na sua construção. Começamos este ambicioso projeto por, numa primeira fase, solicitar depoimentos aos reitores e a todos os presidentes da Escola de Arquitetura, Arte e Design que acompanharam a sua criação e evolução nesse período. Apesar de alguns não terem ainda conseguido responder a este desafio, estou a ver ali um na primeira fila, pelo menos, à data de hoje é possível partilhar os depoimentos do reitor que tornou possível a criação da escola, o professor Sérgio Machado dos Santos, e dos 3 primeiros presidentes da escola, os professores Carlos Bernardo e eu próprio e Vincenzo Riso. Desde que, em agosto de 2022, o professor Sérgio Machado dos Santos enviou o seu depoimento, num par de ocasiões, com a sobriedade e a delicadeza que lhe conhecemos, perguntou-me se o livro já estava editado. Na última vez foi mais incisivo e disse: olhe que esse texto deu-me muito trabalho. Assim, para não protelar mais a sua edição, optamos por publicar esses primeiros textos como pequenos opúsculos de uma coletânea que designamos por EAD 25 e que assumimos como ainda aberta e em construção. Entendemos que uma publicação com essas características constitui a oportunidade de desvendar marcos e marcas de um percurso de reconhecido e inegável êxito. No futuro próximo, esta coletânea deverá acolher outros depoimentos e testemunhos que enriquecerão significativamente o conjunto e contribuirão para conhecer outras facetas e visões da escola. É esse o compromisso que hoje renovamos. Saliento que nesta edição, intencionalmente simples, sóbria, sustentável, tudo, desde a caixa ao design gráfico e à impressão, teve concepção e produção em Guimarães, destacando o profissionalismo do Cláudio Rodrigues no design editorial by UF, a impressão risográfica no estúdio Arco Ignis, a impressão de autocolantes na gráfica nascente e a caixa de cartão, cortesia da Sebastião e Martins, que muito agradecemos. Minhas senhoras e meus senhores, nos 35 anos em que sou docente da Universidade do Minho, tive o privilégio de presidir a Escola de Arquitetura, Arte e Design entre 2004 e 2011 e no último triênio. Recentemente, voltei a cometer a insensatez e a temeridade de, com renovada motivação e visão de melhor escola, me propor a assumir este último mandato na condução e liderança da Escola de Arquitetura, Arte e Design. Filo com a consciência da vantagem de ter reunido uma equipa motivada e muito competente, com 3 vice-presidentes que generosamente aceitaram abraçar este desafio. Os professores João Cabeleira, Jorge Correia e Susana Gaudêncio, a quem agradeço a disponibilidade e a cumplicidade. O programa de ação que estamos convictos constituirá uma carta de valores e um compromisso indelével, transcenderá interesses individuais e temporais e constituirá um pacto coletivo e duradouro, capaz de orientar a governação e a organização da escola, tendo por base princípios e valores éticos de diversidade e multiculturalidade sólidos e amplamente partilhados, e perseguindo o bem comum e garantindo a coesão e a responsabilidade mútua. Ao fomentar uma cultura de pertença e de participação ativa, ambicionamos que a Escola de Arquitetura, Arte e Design seja um lugar de encontros significativos e de desenvolvimento pessoal e coletivo. Pelo adiantado da hora e pela consideração e preocupação com a vossa saúde, poupo-vos à síntese do programa de ação para o próximo triênio. Até porque, há poucos dias, o resumi na sessão de tomada de posse, o que para muitos dos hoje aqui presentes seria repetido. Aproveito, contudo, para renovar o compromisso de continuarmos a garantir uma educação superior de elevada qualidade e de contribuir para a construção de um modelo de sociedade que tenha o saber, a criatividade e a inovação como fatores de desenvolvimento sustentável, privilegiando a realização e disseminação de investigação, a interação com a sociedade e a promoção de atividades e bens culturais. Conscientes das responsabilidades que sobre os nossos ombros recaem, acreditamos que com a colaboração de todas e todos vós poderemos ousar melhorar a escola e afirmar a arquitetura, a arte e o design. Muito obrigado pela vossa presença e pela vossa atenção.
Tomará agora a palavra o vice-reitor da Universidade de Minho, professor Eugênio Campos Ferreira.
Ora, muito boa tarde a todas e a todos. Mais um conjunto de assistentes. Não, estou a entrar. Começo, como habitualmente, pelos cumprimentos. Excelentíssimo Sr. Presidente da Escola de Arquitetura, Arte e Design, Professor Paulo Cruz, caros membros da equipa reitoral, estimados presidentes e vice-presidentes de unidades orgânicas, senhora administradora dos Serviços de Ação Social, ilustres membros do Conselho de Escola e do Conselho Científico da Escola de Arquitetura, Arte e Design, distintos representantes das autarquias, em especial da Câmara Municipal de Guimarães, a vereadora arquiteta Ana Cotter e da Câmara Municipal de Braga, o Dr. João Rodrigues. Também um cumprimento ao Sr. Deputado Ricardo Araújo, estimados representantes da Ordem dos Arquitetos e demais instituições aqui presentes, caros docentes, investigadores, dirigentes, técnicos, administrativos, estudantes e alumni da EAD. Ilustres convidados, minhas senhoras e meus senhores, é com enorme honra e profundo sentido de responsabilidade que represento o magnífico reitor da Universidade do Minho nesta celebração tão especial do 28º aniversário da Escola de Arquitetura, Arte e Design. Este momento é, acima de tudo, uma oportunidade para reconhecermos os sucessos da Escola de Arquitetura, Arte e Design, refletirmos sobre os desafios que enfrentamos e renovarmos o compromisso com um futuro de inovação, inclusão e excelência. Gostaria de iniciar com uma saudação especial à nova equipa da presidência da escola, recentemente impulsada, liderada pelo professor Paulo Cruz e composta pelos professores João Cabeleira, Jorge Correia e Susana Gaudêncio. Esta equipa traz consigo uma visão renovada e um compromisso para liderar a escola em direção a novos horizontes de excelência. Agradeço profundamente o seu esforço e dedicação ao projeto da escola e da Universidade do Minho, assim como à equipa cessante. A EAD é uma escola que se destaca não só no seio da Universidade do Minho, mas também no panorama nacional e internacional, pelo impacto da sua ação nas áreas da arquitetura, arte e design. Desde a sua criação, a escola tem sido um exemplo de como o ensino superior pode articular-se com as necessidades do tecido social, cultural e económico. Permitam ainda destacar a importância da publicação em desenvolvimento sobre a história dos primeiros 25 anos da escola, que revisitará marcos fundamentais e o contributo inestimável de todos aqueles que participaram na sua edificação, uma iniciativa que reforça a memória coletiva e inspira os passos futuros desta escola. Ficamos na expectativa, Sr. Presidente, da sua materialização. A qualidade dos projetos educativos da escola, como o mestrado integrado em Arquitetura e as licenciaturas em Artes Visuais e Design do Produto, continuam a atrair estudantes altamente qualificados e a posicionar a escola como uma referência no ensino superior. O sucesso no acesso ao ensino superior confirma a relevância dos seus cursos e a capacidade de responder às necessidades do mercado. Ao longo do último ano, a escola demonstrou, mais uma vez, a sua capacidade de inovar e impactar positivamente a sociedade. Irei destacar somente alguns dos marcos mais relevantes. A aprovação, no âmbito da candidatura da Universidade do Minho ao concurso FCT Tenor, da única cátedra da Universidade do Minho, uma cátedra não académica, com o apoio do Grupo Casais, de cátedra em construção na era digital. Este é um reconhecimento do potencial inovador da escola e da sua liderança em áreas estratégicas como a construção digital e sublinha a capacidade da escola em atrair e concretizar projetos pioneiros com impacto real na sociedade. A colaboração com o setor empresarial e a indústria, e para além do exemplo da própria cátedra, destacaria aqui também a coordenação de formações especializadas, como o curso em fabricação, robótica, e a parceria com empresas como a Bysteel e a Casais, evidencia o papel que a escola tem como um parceiro estratégico para a inovação. No âmbito da atividade cultural de excelência, não poderia deixar de referir a magnífica conversa que acabamos de assistir com Ai Weiwei, Este momento é um exemplo inspirador do diálogo entre as artes e a sociedade e reforça o posicionamento da escola como um centro de criação e reflexão crítica. Também projetos com impacto regional, o caso da reabilitação do Centro Cívico da Vila das Taipas e intervenção no Convento de São Francisco, recentemente inaugurada, lideradas pelo Centro de Estudos da Escola, são exemplos concretos de como a Escola de Arquitetura, Arte e Design interage com o território, promovendo a valorização patrimonial e cultural. Registro também a criação e dinamização do Núcleo de Alunos de Arquitetura, Design e Artes, com uma sigla engraçada, NADA, uma iniciativa que reforça o sentido de comunidade e pertença, promovendo um ambiente académico vibrante e participativo. Vivemos tempos que exigem resiliência e visão estratégica. A Escola de Arquitetura, Arte e Design, ao longo da sua história, tem demonstrado uma notável capacidade de adaptação, mas os desafios que se avizinham demandam uma renovação contínua. Entre eles, destaco a autonomia financeira e gestão, o modelo de orçamentos que temos em vigor há pouco tempo, por unidade, portanto, oferece à escola uma oportunidade de gerir recursos com maior responsabilidade e eficiência, alinhando-se às metas estratégicas da Universidade e reforçando a sustentabilidade das suas atividades. Ao nível da internacionalização, com a crescente integração em redes europeias, como a Aliança Arcos de Universidades, traz ela própria oportunidades significativas em termos de mobilidade, investigação e colaboração transnacional que devem ser exploradas para reforçar o posicionamento da escola no panorama global. Ao nível da promoção do sucesso académico e redução do abandono, a escola deve continuar a inovar no ensino, investindo em práticas pedagógicas inclusivas e no suporte aos seus estudantes, garantindo maior eficiência e excelência formativa. A Universidade do Minho reconhece o papel crucial da escola no cumprimento da sua missão de promover o ensino, a investigação e a interação com a sociedade. Estamos profundamente comprometidos em apoiar a escola na concretização dos seus objetivos, proporcionando as condições necessárias para que continue a afirmar-se como um espaço de excelência e criatividade. Gostaria de salientar que, para além das metas institucionais, a Universidade partilha com a escola um compromisso com os valores da diversidade, sustentabilidade e promoção da cidadania global. Juntos, acreditamos que a educação e a cultura são motores essenciais para o desenvolvimento sustentável. Concluindo, ao celebrarmos o 28º aniversário da Escola de Arquitetura, Arte e Design, celebramos a história, as conquistas e, acima de tudo, o potencial desta escola para continuar a marcar a diferença no futuro. Deixo uma palavra de apreço ao professor Paulo Cruz e à nova equipa da Presidência pela sua liderança e visão, bem como a todos os docentes, investigadores, técnicos, estudantes e alumni, cuja dedicação e esforço coletivo sustentam o sucesso da escola. Concluo renovando então os parabéns à escola por mais um ano de sucesso e desejando a todos os presentes um futuro pleno de realizações, que este seja mais um ano de desafios superados e de novos horizontes alcançados. Muito obrigado.
Despedimos-nos de todos os que acompanharam esta cerimónia e convidamos-vos a juntarem-se a nós no átrio da Escola de Arquitetura, Arte e Design para o bolo de aniversário e também para a inauguração da exposição anual de trabalhos dos alunos. As celebrações irão prosseguir com uma gusto e uma feira de artistas organizada pelo Núcleo de Alunos de Arquitetura, Artes e Design. Contamos com a presença de todos. Muito obrigado e até à próxima.